Welcome to the LIAISE Cost Action Podcast, connecting mind, empowering industrial CEOs.
Hi everyone, welcome guests. My name is Lucas Gerhard and I'm the expert in the industrial era. And I would like to welcome you here on our one-shot podcast for LIAISE Cost Action Project. Please guests, would you be so kind and introduce yourself?
Okay, so hello, my name is Josef Horák. I'm a member of Department of Finance and Accounting, and my specialization is financial and management accounting as well as ESG reporting. And nowadays I'm very interested in ESG reporting, and I'm trying to do the best and to inform and teach my students about this very hot topic. So that's me. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Jiří Strouhal. I am from the very same department like Josef, from the Department of Finance and Accounting of Škoda Auto University, as well as I am the head of accounting research at Taltech School of Business and Governance in Tallinn in Estonia. In terms of my specialization, it's more about financial reporting and its assurance, financial performance, and also to a certain extent ESG reporting as well. In terms of LIAISE Cost Action, I'm also serving as its science communication officer, and currently I am leading the working group number 4 for dissemination activities, which is like also these podcasts. So good to be here, and I'm looking forward to fruitful discussion.
Welcome, gentlemen. First, I would start with the ESG reporting from the perspective of a financial or non-financial statements. In which area the ESG reporting is going to be more frequently seen? The impact going to be?
Okay, so I think, based on my opinion, when we prepare ESG reporting, it's non-financial reporting. Therefore, when we prepare these reports, we focus on non-financial reporting. But on the other hand, of course, many data comes and are implemented into financial reporting as well. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and moreover, there cannot be underestimated the double materiality aspect. When I need also to focus both on non-financial aspects or financial aspects. But I guess that maybe Josef knows more about the double materiality. So I guess for our listeners, he can explain it way better than me.
Okay, so double materiality is very important in terms of ESG reporting, because when company analyze some problems, some impacts of its activities, that company must focus on financial materiality. So if there are some financial impacts in terms of ESG reporting, these activities must be reported, or if there are some materiality aspects in terms of ESG reporting, the company must do the same. Or we can have both impacts in financial and in non-financial reporting as well. So when the company sees something, then it must be reported, and the company must prepare some KPIs to meet these criteria. Okay.
How does one company make the KPIs? From which side of perspective? Is it from European Union, the structured KPIs is going to be implemented in the company, or company should itself invoke those KPIs which should be in these reports?
Okay, based off discussion with companies and with external auditors, and based on ESRS directives, we can say that the company must follow all ESRS standards, and based on these facts, the company must focus on all aspects that are crucial for that company. And when the company sees based on double materiality, so when there is some very important item or aspect, then the KPIs will be prepared and then will be met during next periods.
Yeah, that's true. Even let's say from audit point of view, that there shall be set some KPIs, and afterwards, of course, the role of auditor, it's not the verification, but of course we need there those let's say finance-based or quantifiable data to see the progress. So of course it's about to set a realistic goal, and after that, let's say for the long-term run, and the task is to assess whether these data are provable or not. That it's not really that something is just written within the report, because historically, if I will go many years back, let's say minus 10, 15 years, when I started as a bottom-up activity, CSR reporting or reporting of my corporate social responsibility issues, it was more about sharing of my best practices, what am I doing. But from the audit point of view, I need some, let's say, more, let's say, quantifiable based proof. So that's why those KPIs shall be, first of all, wisely set. Of course, behind shall be some reliable calculation, but basically afterwards there will be tested and evaluated the progress that, let's say, within 5 years for a certain criterion, doesn't matter if the criterion it's positive or negative, that for example, in case I'm dealing with a tobacco producer, probably it would be about the lowering of the harm, but let's say now the index is high, so what's the, let's say, target for next 5 years, and to which extent it's fulfillable. Also, from the auditing perspective, what cannot be underestimated, it's one issue. Of course, it depends from country to country, but in lots of European countries, those external, let's say, statutory auditors are those ones who are supposed to be also auditors of ESG reports. So it's also about slight shift of their, let's say, mindset from evaluating financial reports for the evaluation of non-financial reports, which are, to be fair, different. Yeah, so okay. Of course, there were some obligatory trainings organized by local chambers of auditors, and of course, when you fulfill all those trainings, you get the certification to be able to be the company or individual who is allowed to audit non-financial reports. But it's really the very beginning. I guess it needs 4 or 5 years when those best practices would be really under your skin, and it would be smoother. Now, I guess within those first year, it's challenging for all parties, both for auditors and especially for companies, to meet all those requirements which are set by CSRD.
My question is, if you are focusing on the KPIs that companies should follow, how many are there, or how complex is the whole process, the scenario of the ESG report?
Okay. The companies must be prepared to set up all KPIs that are crucial for them. I really recommend to discuss these KPIs with external auditors, because when external auditor approves these KPIs, the company has the possibility and of course the duty to follow and try to reach these KPIs in selected period or periods, time periods. And after that, when auditing company checks all these KPIs, there must be met the consistency assumption, because when the company sets its KPIs and during next accounting periods tries to reach these KPIs and reports these KPIs, then the external auditing company has the possibility to correctly check how the company is getting better or not, and if the company reaches or reached these KPIs or not. So it's my opinion.
Yeah, that's basically true that, of course, there is vital the collaboration minimally between the company and the auditor. On the other hand, what I can see as a positive element of ESG reporting within the company, that of course all those departments, they have to collaborate. It's really not about that, I don't know if marketing or HR department under whom would be that person who would be responsible for ESG reporting will work or if it would be under controlling, but it's really about the collaboration within the whole company. Yeah.
If you were focusing, for example, the KPI metrics that are set for the one company, if we have a whole supply chain management and we are probably obliged to require the ESG report from the other companies within our supply chain management, how does one company can evaluate their ESG report if it's met the standards or not?
Okay, so when the company asks its suppliers to prepare the reports for that company, it's good idea to visit and check if all criteria are really met. So based on some auditing campaigns and so on, the company should send its employees and to check if all information written in reports that suppliers prepared are correct or not. So it's a responsibility of the company that asks its suppliers for these reports. And in my opinion, it's really good idea to make some cooperation with suppliers, because of then there is a great possibility to improve all transactions between these companies to reach the correct ESG data.
Technically, I can agree, but let's say from the practical point of view, to be fair, I am more skeptic. That of course it depends who is my supplier, whether it's some really or a relatively small company, whether it's the local company or company from far away from different continent. Because let's be fair, who is focusing on the ESG reporting? It's mostly European Union, partial or Europe. Definitely Australia, within Asia. We believe that it's Japan, South Korea, if am I right. So mostly these countries. But for example, let's say in case that I have some supplier from far away, I'm not sure whether there would be performed this internal audit or how precisely by my own or responsible employees, because of course I have to send them there, of course, what they can see within one day, in case it's, let's say, the large local business who doesn't care so much about E or S factors. But on the other hand, for my company, it's really cost effective that I have, let's say, second to zero initial costs for, I don't know, material or for my whole product. So this, I guess, might be problematic. And also, let's say, even when I see it from the perspective of those small companies, let's say the local ones, who would be, let's say, tasked or questioned from that large company, basically, majority of them, they have no clue about what they are supposed to fulfill. So it shall be really set, introduced, and explained by that large company. What are their expectations from me? Also, maybe how I'm supposed to calculate those ratios or certain elements like CO2 path or whatever. And afterwards, of course, for those companies, it would be way easier. So it's really about a good collaboration within the value chain. It's way easier in case it's the local chain. In case it's worldwide, of course, it's more challenging. And afterwards, of course, I have to work there with that materiality level, what level of error I can, let's say, live with or not.
I was talking this about or the chain that I was asking specifically because the ESG report is probably going to be mandatory for the large companies within the range 1,000 employees plus. Am I right?
Yeah.
That means probably most of these companies trying to be as most cost effective as possible, as this is probably going to be one of the competencies that you can have as a company to be competitive on the market. So these companies probably have the large supply chains, which are probably going from the East Asia those or just Asia, I would say, yeah. From China, it can be Bangladesh or etc. for the material purposes. How can the European Union, because we are talking about it's mandatory to have the ESG report, but no one can verify it. Am I right?
Hardly, but on the other hand, upon that initial proposal, despite now there are some, let's be fair, huge and significant changes, even like those 1,000 employees, because historically the task was only 250, so those criteria are, let's say, multiplied. But there was a point that in case that I'm the supplier to European Union and I'm fulfilling the criterion that I am non-EU company but either listed or large or listed SME. Afterwards, from certain year, it used to be 2026 with 2 years of opt-out, so let's be fair, 2028. I am supposed also to do the ESG reporting based on a CSRD directive. Yeah, but now there are, let's say, some delays based on that omnibus initiative of European Union. So it's questionable to which extent these non-EU companies or non-EU suppliers would be affected. Maybe, or I assume they would be somehow affected. But questionable is whether it would be the real full scope of CSRD or there would be done some simplification. And I believe that minimally for those, let's say, medium-sized companies or smaller ones, that simplification, it's not vital, it's really crucial and needed because otherwise it's a huge administrative burden. It's strongly cost over benefit because just for setting the system, especially by external company, banks are charging 80 plus K euros. And it wouldn't be cheaper. And this is just the setting of the system. And of course, I need there also some skilled people and not like what I can hear from certain companies that, okay, it would be done by a person with the lowest workload. So afterwards, okay, what I can expect from that report in case it's done by some non-qualified or not non-qualified, that person is qualified, but for something way different. So afterwards, I believe that for auditors or for even for companies, those first, let's say, first 2-3 years would be really tough. But training, practicing makes you perfect. So I believe that in long-term run, it couldn't be worse. It might be only better. Let's be positive.
I have a question from the accounting perspective. If we have the non-financial statement of the ESG report, how it should be structured to read well?
Okay, so
I know it's a tough question because sometimes the ESG reports are 100 pages, but if we would live in an ideal world, how should it be structured to be easily read by any stakeholder?
Okay, in my opinion, when I compared previous, let's say, ESG reports or CSRD reports, every company had another form, and therefore it's quite difficult for the users of this information to find the crucial information fastly. And therefore, I think it's a good idea to follow ESRS standards and first start with eco issues, after that to focus on social issues, and after that to focus on governance based on all these standards. In my opinion, it's a good idea to prepare some standardization because then it would be more comfortable for users of ESG reports to find the information they are interested in. So that's my opinion. What about Jiří?
Basically, some templates might be nice, but on the other hand, let's say the positive shift compared, let's say, to CSR is that there is some level of standardization, what wasn't before. But on the other hand, of course, I can imagine that I can read just some 15 pages reports or, I don't know, 300 pages. And out of those 300 pages, I guess that if they will cut it for 200 reader, in case that there will be really somebody willing to read 300 pages. Of sometimes maybe even greenwashing. So Yeah, I guess we need sometimes to use our AI friends to do some summary of what's important. But on the other hand, like within the annual report, where are some flash information, I assume that in case that, let's say, first 3-4 pages would be some kind of key information from that ESG report, it would be really beneficial, some kind of elevator page. But afterwards, okay, so why there is necessary to do 200 or 300 more pages? So yeah, that's the question.
There's a question, but on the other hand, the companies have different KPIs, and therefore these KPIs should be mentioned in these reports. And as Jiří said, I fully agree that in the first part of ESG reports there should be written basic information, and after that, if you are interested in some specific additional information, you can read more facts about that. But at first sight, everything must be explained in 10, 20 pages, and I think it would be ideal, because nowadays readers try to focus only on basic information, and they try to focus on information they are interested in, and the rest they will be not interested in that, is my opinion.
Or maybe in the future, the report would be in the form of podcast, or I don't know, video. Who knows? That let's say next year when we will be sitting here, we will perform a podcast that it wouldn't be about the topic, but we will discuss the KPIs of certain company. That's possible, and maybe it will attract listeners more than to read, because of course, let's be fair. Let's say financial or non-financial reporting, it's not some really nice literature, what it's a daily pleasure for reading. Sometimes it's really tough, but that's what it is.
I had one question about it, and you kind of mentioned it with saying we using AI, for example. It can be joke, or it doesn't, because AI is developing really quickly. But you said that, tell me in a short version what's important, but who sets what's important? That's my thing. Does it set European Union what's important and other is like obligatory or voluntary? Or does auditors say what's actually important? How does one say what's important to have?
To be fair, none of them. I believe it really depends from stakeholder to stakeholder. What's really important to one stakeholder, it's not necessarily important to another, even in case that I'm just the customer. For each different customer, there are information which are more or less relevant. But even if there would be just one KPI, for certain customers it's really important, and so for some, who cares about such one? Yeah, so probably this might be an issue. Yeah, so of course I wouldn't probably calculate all possible KPIs which are under those 10+2 standards, because okay, we are mentioning those 5 E standards, 4 S standards, 1 G standard, but there are also 2 general standards, and those other 10s are the spin-off. So it really depends. In certain standards or in certain KPIs are more interested banks, in certain customers, and in terms of customers it really depends whether it's B2B or B2C. In terms of B2B, whether it's the same sector or different sector. Yeah, sometimes, let's be fair, even for, in case I'm doing financial statement analysis, one of the users are my competitors. So of course that probably competitors will focus on which KPIs I am interested or I am following, whether they are doing the same or they have the different one. In case they have the same, what's my evaluation, what's their evaluation? So even the benchmarking possibilities are there. So let's say the positive thing is that those KPIs are somehow defined. Of course, it would be great that, or might be great in case that they would be calculated on the very same way, that it would be really standardized, that let's say the KPI, whatever, it's something divided by something or multiplied, plus minus, doesn't matter. And not that the one company will calculate it one way and second one different way, because that comparability is also important. minimally within the value chain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that my value chain is different from the value chain of my, let's say, B2B partner.
You have anything to add on?
I think I can say I fully agree with Jiří because
Yeah.
he said everything. I think that's very true.
Because I was thinking that if we have infinite number of stakeholders, we can say, because for perspective, when I look, for example, we have 5 the most profitable areas in Czech Republic: industrial, automotive, banking, and for example, I don't know how to say the marketing, the shopping.
Oh, retail industry.
Retail. The retail one, the stakeholders, I think here will be the biggest problem. For example, as your stakeholders are consumers, which is the biggest group of people, then it should be a town. So this is going to be like
municipalities.
State. Then should be healthcare, because all the products you sell, because you're selling, for example, tobacco as well as, for example, alcohol, and next to it you sell all the KitchenAid equipment. So it's such a variety. You're covering probably everyone who lives in the state. So these ESG reports, how can we like standardize it to have easy guidelines to focus on? Because now we know that you should do ESG report, but nobody knows how to do it. What should be your ideas, for example, people who are trying to dig deeper in the ESG report? Do you have something in mind that could help people with the guidelines? I know it's a tough question because it's a tough topic, but like if you have some open minds discussion about it.
Maybe I think it's really interesting question. Yeah, and I think that nowadays we are at the beginning of ESG reporting, and companies trying to study all problems, trying to report everything that is crucial for their stakeholders. But during first years of ESG reporting, I think the quality of ESG reports will not be as perfect as it will be in, for example, 5, 7, 10 years. Because nowadays all of us are trying to do the best. But as you said, many people, many companies, and as well as external auditors are not, in my opinion, not fully ready to do everything correctly as it is written, based on all standards, all directives that are valid and that are complied with ESG reporting. And I think if ESG has some recommendations, now I'm not able to tell you some ideas how to do.
This proves how complex it is.
Actually, I also do not have the idea, but on the other hand, when they were mentioned these various sectors, probably some sector-specific guidelines will be definitely issued. That, let's say, in each country we have some, let's say, 4 to 5 major industries. It really depends. Okay, in Czech it's automotive, elsewhere it's wood industry, for example, textile industry, etc., marine. Yeah, so I believe that there would be some maybe industrial specific, not only guidelines but also KPIs. I believe that, let's say, those industrial associations, they really make help in this area. It's of course questionable, but on the other hand, when I had discussion with, for example, the Association of SMEs or local national business chamber, their members, they are actively asking, okay, where I will find information about that. Yeah, it's, let's say, the first year, so of course they have just heard something. So first of all, in case that they are lucky enough that they at least heard that something like this is happening, okay, is it somehow affecting my business or not? In case not, they are even more happy. But in case yes, okay, so what I'm supposed to do, whom shall I ask? Okay, there are some consulting companies, but of course the quality varies. So sometimes I'm just spending money, and what I have heard from one of my clients, that they receive some Excel file to fill out, and they charge them 50,000 euros. So far, they are waiting what they will receive, but definitely they wouldn't receive the whole ESG report, because it was some Excel file with one sheet and not very broad table. So it really it's under the evolution, so it needs some time. I guess it was too fast. The implementation was too fast, considering the, let's say, affected group. Because imagine that, let's say, in case that for the first year it was just for those companies who historically fulfilled non-financial reporting directives. So mostly it was about the listed companies. So let's focus on the Czech market. How many listed companies do we have? Second to zero. Then all large companies, so under the initial scope, those were companies with 250 plus employees. So from, let's say, 15 companies, 40,000 companies. 15 companies, okay, and let's be fair, those listed companies are mostly audited by Big Four. I have no doubts about Big Four for sure. They have experts on this field, and what I know from some of these companies, let's say 30% of teams is fully dedicated to ESG reporting. But we have some limited number of human resources. So these 30% focusing now on ESG reporting, I'm lacking for the audit of financial reports. Yeah, so it's kind of trade-off. That okay, I have great business, that I can do the assurance of ESG reports, but on the other hand, I need some more people. But of course, more people means additional cost for me as well, because and moreover, I have to train them. I cannot just grab them from the street, despite, let's say, they have, a major from accounting field, but still they have to have some knowledge specific to auditing of all those reports. And even more afterwards, it's challenging, let's say, for the smaller audit companies or even individuals. Yeah, so let's see.
It's from the accounting perspective, first I add on that I think it was 4 years ago or 5 years ago, PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big fours, made a statement that in addition, next 5-10 years, they will invest more than $1 billion to hire ESG experts, so they can be obliged to actually review and do the audits on all the ESG reports, even though making them. That's like one of the things that struck me as Pricewater starting doing this means definitely it's going to be a big thing in the future.
Something is happening, definitely. That's completely true. And actually, this is a really good point that, okay, they can somehow train them, but of course, this is a huge task also for faculties, or even maybe for high schools, that at least to have some knowledge there, of course, maximally one subject in case I'm studying some economic type of high school, or it might be within, business economics. But for universities, of course, even those students of the bachelor level, they have to have at least some knowledge. Of course, it affects somehow, for example, the corporate law, because first of all it's the legislation, and afterwards, of course, it somehow affects my marketing management strategy, definitely, because the question is to which field it fits perfectly. Okay, it's, let's say, for example, here approved and, let's say, assured by auditors, so it looks like it's more under finance, but technically this is not something what's really directly affected with finance. So questionable is to which field really this kind of non-financial reporting belongs, because this is quite perfect combination between marketing, management, HR, business law because of corporate governance issues, supply chain, so sometimes even logistics. So this is really broad. Yeah, so questionable is who shall be or in which field. I can assume is the, let's say, typical absolvent of the university. Doesn't matter if it would be bachelor or master level. Yeah, so yeah, but basically universities shall prepare for this one because this is not some, let's say, fancy stuff of 2025, but this is something what would be with us for the future. Until there would be developed something even maybe way more complex than this complex ESG reporting, let's be fair.
We starting with CSR, then we build on it, and then we build.
Yeah, upgrade, and afterwards it may fall.
Yes, that is true. In which field does it belong is really good question, because I'm thinking, who does one collect the data? How does one set the correct limits through which we should calculate it, if we are obliged or not, if we are following it or not? But how does one set the units for it? Because in accounting it's pretty easy, because in financial statements everything is crowns or euros or in double. If we have companies in with some sectors or in some levels, we can have both. But in ESG, what are the units? How does one calculate, for example, how does the pollution of air is changed during 1 year, 2 years? So in which sectors we should probably thinking about mitigating from our initial idea as environmental, for example, change. For it can be, as I said, the pollution of air, to some receivable or easily collectible data. Can we see this as, for example, like the ball that we hit on, like we say, we cannot measure this, it shouldn't be put in there, or we just don't care about it and put it there and talk about it as you want? For example, the pollution of air, I'm thinking nobody can easily measure it, but should it be there? Because many KPIs can be just KPI on paper, but practically can be, for example, collectible in a practice.
Okay, very interesting question. In general, when we follow the double materiality, when the company has financial or non-financial impact, then everything must be reported and the company must set its KPIs. Based on ESR standards, we have some methodology that helps us to prepare some calculations, for example, of carbon dioxide consumption or carbon dioxide exhaust and so on, or other pollutants. And we follow, for example, GRI standards, and we have some methodology how to do that. But technically, it's quite difficult for companies. You can imagine some large company, and the company burns, for example, coal or other items that are burned to produce some energy, heat, electricity, and so on. Or biomass and so on. And if you want to correctly express all data, you must buy some sensors, some information systems that will collect this data. On the other hand, it's really very difficult, or I think it's nonsense, to correctly report these data based on ESR standards. And you must invest in information systems, in some technical devices, and people who cares about everything. And in my opinion, it costs much money, and company must spend really much money on all these activities. It's my opinion.
Yeah, so I will continue with these costs. So, okay, I have some, let's say, significant volume of costs, and what I have for those costs. Because basically...
More job?
Questionable, let's say, okay, from that as factors. I guess that in the future, especially between younger generations, these factors are quite important in terms of employer branding, and maybe in case I'm selecting between companies with, let's say, comparable salaries. I don't think that candidate will care too much about ESG in case that one company will offer him 2,000 euros and second 8,000 euros. So let's say, okay, I will close my eyes and okay, I will go for 8,000 for that non very sustainable company, maybe. I'm not sure. Or basically, okay, finance matters, so probably, yes, this would be the solution. Yeah, so basically I'm investing a lot But of course, it's easier for profitable business. What would be less profitable? But for companies who is so surviving, it might be the real killer. And also, if you will take it from the perspective of investor in the company or owner of the company, yeah, or some individual private investor, of course, from such company, those dividends would be lower. Yeah, so I know that even banks, they are also aiming for green portfolios because also they have to fulfill the target of lowering of CO2 emissions. So of course, afterwards that portfolio is set from various sectors where in energy industry there might be some savings, for example, construction industry or even food industry. There are some possibilities. So basically, the task is to lower, let's say, the levels of CO2. So if coming back to setting the data or the system, okay, there are some guidelines, measures how to do so. So of course, there are those investments for the possible calculation of that. But afterwards, let's say from that evaluation point of view, okay, here is my target, here is my goal. So again, how that goal in long-term run is fulfilled, whether I am closer, or I am, let's say, farther from the goal. If I'm closer, good for me. If I'm farther, of course, this shall be somehow explained within the report, or at least I assume so.
If I follow up on this, imagine that we have probably we have some industry that probably be closed within near future. For example, burning coal that makes electricity. So these coal plants will definitely be closed. I don't know, definitely, but now they should be closed in certain year. How does this information should be perceived in the ESG report and also seen in the financial statement? For example, me as an investor looking forward to invest in money, how should I probably see it in the portfolio of the company if it's for me even profitable to invest in them? Can we have this?
Nowadays, I think it's not a good idea to invest in company that produce coal or mine coals or burn coal because, as you said, these companies will finish in near future, and therefore the companies must prepare and inform the users of accounting information in their financial reports. So there will be some activities based on some specific depreciation plans. There will be reported provisions related to improve some mines and to get them back. For example, in Germany or in Czechia, we can see that some old parts where the coal was mined will be flooded, and there are some lakes for recreation and so on. So everything costs money, yeah, and therefore the companies must prepare money to recultivate these areas and to prepare them as they were before they started to mine the coal, for example. And it costs really much money, and therefore they must inform users of accounting information in their reports about all these activities. And as I said, it costs much money, and I don't really recommend you to invest in these companies just now.
If I'm trying to starting a mine, I should immediately have a reserve for recreation.
These days, definitely so. Yeah, but historically, let's say, imagine we started, let's say, in 19th century. So those days, of course, nobody knows for how many years there would be that coal available. So of course, in case of your, let's say, example, those companies know pretty well based on the local country's plan when they are the expectation for the closure. So it's not something brand new that today, in case that today they will issue some accelerated plan and that, let's say in 2025 they will decide that all coal mines shall be closed by 2030. So of course afterwards I have to adjust my depreciation plan. So I have some book or carrying amount in which I'm reporting such mine within my statement of financial position. But let's say I plan to depreciate it for next 15 years. But because there is this plan that it shall be closed within 5 years afterwards, of course, I have to adjust the depreciation plan. So in case of historical depreciation by 15 years, it would be just 5 years. So my annual depreciation would be tripled. Yeah, so let's say afterwards you may understand that in certain, especially not very profitable businesses, they do not care so much about EBIT, but about EBITDA. Yeah, because afterwards it's not affected by this one. And second issue, what Josef mentioned, it's also that provision for the mine closure, sometimes the restoration of that place, that either there might be some lake or golf course, which generate, let's say, quite interesting sales in the future, hopefully afterwards. But after, I assume I wouldn't be the owner. Also, question is, so what's with those PPEs which are inside? Technically, I may sell it to third parties, for example, to some partner in the country where, let's say, it might be used next 10, 15 years, so at least I can get some cash back. But mine itself, I cannot move from one country to another. So let's say here, yes, there will be some negative result from this discontinued transaction, which significantly affects me. Question is, what with that company, whether I may transform it to something different, that even from that closed mine, I know that sometimes they are aiming to get some methane for heating, that there are still some possibilities, because let's say those underground activities, they are working there even if that mine is closed. So this might be, let's say, or this may have some potential. But again, I have to invest a lot to some new equipment instead of the former one. Or as I'm telling, I will shift from a mine company to, let's say, golf resort. But of course, I have to, let's say, prepare there or construct there some hotel, resort, or whatever. So I don't know from this perspective.
From the social perspective, the social pillar we have in the ESG reports, what are the key factors or key areas to focus on as a companies?
So it depends on decision of the company. So in general, if you have our employees, our workforce, therefore we focus on situations, how can we improve their workplace to be safe, and if our employees have great conditions to work for us, if they have, let's say, quite good salaries, or let's say the salaries that are common in that area for these positions. After that, we can say that the companies will focus on, for example, some special benefits for its employees. And let's say one of hot topic is some possibilities how to improve their skills. Some so pay for them some courses, some instructor, some courses and other activities that improve their skills.
What also needn't to be forgotten are also the activities within the community. And that actually even this morning I read some news that one of large banks, they are moving to some brand new campus. And exactly, and basically they are following their the logic of their parent from Austria, that it would be very near of the new train station district. And actually, of course, that building, it's, let's say, the state of the art in terms of activities. And also in terms of those social activities, they are telling that, or hoping that that campus would be open 24/7. So basically, still there is some possibility to interact within the local community. There might be schools. What I know from this bank, they are quite heavily investing in kind of financial grammar in, let's say, secondary schools or high schools, because of course it's very important to know wisely when to accept loan, what to expect. Same with mortgages, that okay, I have mortgage with 3 or 4%, but of course the reality doesn't mean that I will pay just 4% more, but in that long-term run, because of the present value of the money, of course, especially if it's for 30 years, 4% mean that I have to repay double. Yeah, but within the 30 years, we need to, let's say, forget that there is some inflation. So let's say in real figures, it's lower. In nominal, of course, it's double. That's true. Yeah, so this is what it's easily to be sold under that S part as well. And also when we will go back to that value chain issues, I have to follow that S also within that value chain. Yeah, so when we mentioned, let's say, those producers from, let's say, countries where they do not care so much about S parts, I guess this might be really problematic for their report, because in case they will not tell the truth, I don't believe that auditor can approve such report. Yeah, so this is really something what shall be somehow displayed, or technically, of course, they have to opt for some different, let's say, supplier, but there will be, of course, additional expenses. It wouldn't be such cheap with the same higher or even worse quality.
So basically, the ESG standards that then became mandatory and everyone, the companies we know, the list and large, should do it. Then it's probably gonna end up for us as a consumers, if they are operating in the B2C market, the products we should expect to rise in the prices. As all the activities are trying to invoke their environmental and social mindset and awareness, they should switch probably from the non-sustainable suppliers to sustainable and more careness suppliers. Means that all these additional costs and additional expenses and more people working in ESG department while making ESG reports should probably gonna be affected somewhere, and probably it's gonna be in the rise prices. If I'm
I wouldn't expect lower prices. Let's be fair, because again, back to that maybe S factor. Again, I have to fulfill also some, let's say, salary criteria that it shall be that employer fairly treat. Gender gap also might be the issue which shall be somehow commented. There are some specific KPIs even for this area. Yeah, so of course, in case I have to rise the salaries, I have to purchase more sustainable, let's say, material. In case my inputs are higher, I have two options in case I have a nice margin. Either to lower the margin, but the question is, what about one of my key stakeholders, my owners or investors? Probably they wouldn't be super happy. Or rise the price, but afterwards, customers wouldn't be happy. Will I lose customers? How many or let's say, what's the volume of percentage of customers? What I can safely lose? Again, this is something what shall be taken in account.
Yeah, me thinking from the taking this account is I'll have really strong additional costs, and I know that if I want lower my margin, I will lose an additional profit from our. That means the costs are even significantly higher, because this is my lost opportunity thanks to this. This is me thinking economically. This doesn't make sense.
He is the management accountant, so
Okay, I fully agree with Jiří. But on the other hand, when the company correctly and wisely set its KPIs, I think there is a place to find some savings. On the other hand, for example, when you, for example, have an old machines that produce products that are mostly not correct, and you must get rid of them because you are not able to sell them. Therefore, you will report some environmental costs. And when you focus on the information based on your KPIs, you can find that it's a good idea to invest in new machines, for example, a new production line. This production line will save you electricity or other resources. You will save material, and for example, you will not need as many employees, for example, in the future. It can save some money, but in general, the prices will grow up. There's no doubt. But on the other hand, the companies have the possibility to change something and to improve their production process, and then some savings could be fine, but prices will go up.
But this is good to know now that ESG standards, for example, on the other hand, in financials, are strictly more, how to say it, to be like sharing is caring, usually I would say, in the metaphor, because me as a company, I can lower all my emissions. I can probably set higher safety standard, so my employees won't get hurt that much. That means the healthy standards will higher. The healthy system can be seen as a decrease because the process is going to be cleaner and easier to sustain. So this is probably more to be not like saving costs, but should be saving the future. This is like investing for the future, as I say. ESG reports mandatory as a top-down approach. I see from a perspective as a European Union, it's seen that improve our living and in general, if I say. But financials are more strictly just to be seen as improve our financial structures, as I say. This is like two approaches because this one is gonna, each statement is gonna be as a trade-off between each other, because if I want to save money, then it's gonna be for me to save somewhere else. That means for future environment and etc. So this is like we are more trying to focus on future than for the past.
Yeah, probably. It's not like it used to be, okay, I focus on some fiscal year, but let's say now I am focusing on some, let's say, company life as a whole. That, okay, now in terms of expenditures or cash flows, significant minus. Questionable is whether I will survive or not. Let's pray and hope yes. And in long-term run, questionable is what under that long-term run it will be, whether it would be just 3, 5, 10, 30, 40 years. I just hope that by the time I wouldn't bankrupt, it will shift, let's say, from a minus to plus. But it's about, let's say, some long-term goals. It's not like when I'm calculating profit, it's just for 1 year. Here, all those KPIs are, or those goals are set, let's say, for some longer period, not for right now. Of course, there shall be some path, and it couldn't be like boom bust, but it really depends. But let's say now for those companies, or generally, not only for companies, I can say it within one word as an euphemism. It's challenge.
Yeah. Now I understand that the Japanese have it and its functions as Japanese culture is really shifting toward. No, they are driven by the long-term vision and long-term planning. So now I understand why Japanese have it and it suits and works. Can we actually like transfer their knowledge to implement it here as a companies? Because they use it, they have the reports and the standards. Can we actually use it for our companies or no?
I think there is some possibility to use some parts of their knowledge and part of the reports that are very good in them, but on the other hand we can compare different mentalities. Japanese mentality is really another with European mentality in terms of employees, because in European Union we care about social welfare and we care about our employees, but on the other hand in Japan, what I heard and what I had the possibility to discuss, so Japanese employees stay at work until their boss leave home. If they have no work to do, they, for example, sleep at work on table, but they wait for their boss when he's ready to go home. there is a problem. I cannot imagine in the European Union because now we have some times we have to be employed during the day, but after that, when we are ready with our work, we finish everything, we can go home. But it's not common in Japan. Yeah, and I think Japanese are very efficient, but on the other hand, I think their social life and is probably, in my opinion, not as good as in Europe.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you can see that Japanese have less kids and less kids because they have no time to be with their families.
Mm.
So, in my opinion, it's a problem, and some parts should be transferred to European Union. But on the other hand, I think European Union has a great opportunity to care about their employees and to live here and be satisfied. And like, it's very important for employees and of course from the employer too, because when we have satisfied employees, these employees for us and they are efficient. On the other hand, there should be some problems.
Yeah.
That is true, yeah. Gentlemen, do you have anything on your mind that should be told to add on this discussion? Anything you think about that should be said and heard?
Maybe just one thing, just not to be scared from ESG reporting as a company. Of course, now these first years might be a bit challenging, but let's say in the future where the system would be evolved, there would be really some industrial specific guidelines, some tools, definitely within 3 to 5 years, even our AI friends will improve and might be some really helpful tools for at least structuring all those reports. So yes, there will be 3-4 years of struggling, but afterwards, let's say 20-30 plus, it would be okay. But now we have to survive these 5 years between. Thank you very much.
As Jiří said, it's a challenge, and I think it's a big challenge, and I think we are ready to meet this challenge. And as Jiří said, AI will be very useful tool to help in terms of ESG reporting. And I think when we prepare and set everything wisely, the companies will benefit from ESG reporting. So that's my opinion. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. For our listeners, if there are additional information you want to hear or request, our gentlemen here have their bios and their contacts in description of the video. Thank you very much for joining our constructive discussion that we have for the LIAISE cost action, which I think is really doing a great thing for digging deeper in the ESG topic and ESG reporting, as it's going to be our future towards. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.